Floor to the distinguished representative of Sri Lanka.
Going to be the New World Order, and whether it would be a different mechanism if it was to deliver on the to deliver on the opening pledges of its charter. It was observed in the opening plenary of the United Nations Founding Conference in San Francisco that what existed then betrayed the hopes of those who believed in it. It is obvious that no one wishes a United Nations which has no rights or power, which did not interfere with any aggressors preparing for war against peace-loving nations, and which sometimes even lulled the nation's vigilance with regard to impending aggression. We must guard ourselves from not traversing down that road. The Security Council is not an independent actor. According to Article 1.1, the first purpose of the UN is clear. I'm asking the question, are we living up to that mandate? Is there a real consultation of member states? On the other hand, we have an enthusiastic response to the working of the Security Council almost by way of a review, ignoring the provisions of the Charter that clearly defines the separation of powers to ensure the principal organs work in mutual respect for each other in their own spheres of activity. Can we, I ask, personalize the mechanisms of this August Assembly? Should we then proceed with caution? Mr. President, it has been said that policymakers, diplomats and scholars have long sought a middle way between words and war to influence those who disturb the peace. Prior to the world wars, it was widely believed that growing economic interdependence would make it financially and commercially suicidal for any of the major Western powers to resort to war. The threat of economic sanctions, therefore, was seen as a uniquely persuasive tool to back up non-coercive techniques of arbitration and judicial settlement to resolve international disputes. Do we really review this mechanism to see whether it is effective, whether they affect the citizens of the country, or whether they are designed to punish their political leaders who had cross purposes ostensibly with the world order? Are we even-handed, I ask, in adopting these measures? Or do we adopt double standards? These are questions that the Security Council has to ask itself, however unpalatable it may be. It has also been observed that humanitarian concerns are rarely at the top of the action agendas of major capitals. They are, however, anything but new to the Council. They are listed among the 3rd or 4th sets of purposes for the United Nations laid out in Article 1 of the Charter. The stirring opening words of the preamble to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has brought untold sorrow to mankind, invoked humanitarian imperatives that has spurred the creation of the world body as an alternative to the carnage and horrors of unrestricted warfare. As Secretary General Annan put it, unless the Security Council can unite around the aim of confronting massive human rights violations and crimes against humanity, then we will betray the very ideals that inspired the founding of the United Nations. As Chapter 3 related during the deliberations of San Francisco, the founders were determined to preserve for the Security Council as much flexibility as possible to determine what might constitute a threat to international peace and security. Moreover, Article 34 gives the Council wide latitude to investigate any dispute or situation that would endanger the maintenance of international peace and security. They understood that any attempt to list the proximate causes of conflict could be fruitless and a controversial exercise subject to misinterpretation, debate, and delay when collective action was most urgently needed. With due modesty, they realized as well that geopolitical and technological conditions were likely to change in unpredictable ways in the years ahead of us. The Security Council from its inception has been controversial. In part, this has stemmed from the prevalent perception that the Council has been the one place in the UN system that really matters. In part, it has derived from the pervasive frustration that the Council has never fulfilled the overly high expectations that many people and governments had of it. And importantly, it reflects an unresolved tension between the sharply but somewhat narrowly defined concept the convening powers had for how the Council should function and how inclusive and participatory model favored by the UN's large membership. Mr. President, finally, it has been said that many political scientists have said that few institutions are as well known or as little understood as the UN Security Council. I'm not sure whether that critique can be attributed to academic overreach. Without attempting to venture an answer to it, in that regard, one of those classic enigmas hiding in plain sight, it has been perpetually shrouded by layers of divergent and even internally contradictory expectations and fantasies. It habitually disappoints, regroups, and then surprises. One day it is heralded, the next disdained or worse dismissed. Each action it takes is celebrated by some and despaired by others. It squanders obvious opportunities only to manufacture something out of nothing the next time around. As it triumphs in one arena, it turns its back, they say, on several more. We, however, repose great hope that the Security Council has the capacity and the potential to deliver the expectations of the member states and ensure that we, the member states, and our people can live in dignity, peace, and in prosperity. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the distinguished representative of Sri Lanka